So, about gerontocracy and the boomers. We got a bunch of confused old people walking around, driving cars, voting in elections. You know, some of those fuckers want to send us to the Eastern Front or to die in the Middle East. I'm not going unless there's Pervitin or, them Panzerschokolade. There's something seriously wrong with society when all the decisions are being made by people who are so old that they should be in a nursing home or in hospice care. If you look at some of the politicians, especially in the US, in the Senate or whatever, even Trump or Biden, like both of them are like about 80. Like at that point, the brain starts usually shutting down and you're basically a vegetable at this point. And it's not just in politics, the demographics in the West are like completely cooked. Like I was living in Lisbon a while back for a couple months, and one of my Brazilian friends told me that he was so surprised when he came to Europe that there were so many old people, and it's totally different in Brazil where the average age is much lower, and you can have young people everywhere. And here in Europe, and I think in the US also to a certain degree, it's just everything is like filled with old people and is catering to old people. If you just go to the supermarket to buy some groceries and you got this old lady at the cashier like slowly counting the coins, like hurry up grandma before the fucking cancer takes you. The real question about like old people or boomers is why are they like this? What made them like this? And especially the lived reality of like the boomer generation and people now is so different. Like in their day they had all these good jobs that were like secured by unions, they had good contracts with all sorts of benefits. But all of this has mostly been destroyed by boomers through like neoliberalism and deindustrialization and financialization. A lot of these old industries just disappeared or just can't offer these good conditions anymore. And they also like didn't found any new alternative industries. Like if you look at China, how they built their industries, they mostly used like protectionism so they could build up an industry until it was actually competitive on the international market. And meanwhile, in the West, people get so like high on this neoliberal free market stuff. They're like, oh, the free market will fix it. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Meanwhile, they're just gutting the system and taking everything that's worth looting it pretty much. Yeah, we've seen in the last few decades wages effectively shrinking, the median wage going down. Housing prices have gone way up, and that's another thing that boomers usually profit from because they already have houses. Sometimes they have extra houses that they can rent out. So for them, it's obviously good if their property value is going up, and the more expensive housing is, the more rent income they have. So they're basically profiting from destroying the future of their own children, if they even have any. I recently read in France that pensioners are earning more than the average worker now, which is completely insane. To be honest, we also see a big divide between like rich and poor. There are a lot of fabulously wealthy boomers, while still some boomers don't even have the money to retire, which is crazy to believe because it seems like as a boomer you just stumble over your own feet a couple of times and you end up rich, but some still ended up poor. And now all of the social welfare systems that they have gutted are not there to help them retire. When I was in Germany a couple of years back, we were drinking in a park and I was told like the empty bottles, there's a fund on them, you can return them to get money. I was told to leave them next to the trash can. And then I saw that like old people pensioners were coming to pick up those bottles to return them to get the money. Also in Germany, there's this different pension plans. So there's like a lot of really rich old people and a lot of really poor ones, even though they all pretty much worked their entire lives. But yeah, the real question is why are they like this? What made them like this? And I think the main thing about the boomers is that they had society just work for them all their life. Like they were born into post-war prosperity and peace. They basically grew up with this idea that everything was gonna get better and they were just gonna get more and more wealthy. And I think you can tell how kind of their character was ruined. Like even in the 60s and the 70s with like the hippies who didn't really care about anything or anyone other than themselves. Everything was just like, oh, I wanna smoke my reefer and I wanna have my free love. And then a lot of them in the 80s, once the hippie lifestyle stopped being cool, they just went on like Wall Street and did a corporate career and decided to become rich. Another thing is that back in those days, the television told the truth, or the story that the television told was by people automatically assumed to be the truth. And obviously nowadays, with a more diverse media landscape, people can't even agree on one story. There's always like so many different takes depending on your political affiliation. And I know it's probably not good for society to be so divided, but at least some people are learning to think for themselves. Meanwhile, boomers just blindly believe everything they heard on TV. And you notice sometimes when you talk with a boomer, it's like talking with a TV. They don't even seem to acknowledge anything you're saying. They just give you the TV talking points of like the current thing. Also, they've been like propagandized by Hollywood movies and other forms of mass media. It's kind of funny, like the understanding of history from a boomer is like there's nothing, then World War II happens, and then they show up. Like other than that, they usually don't know much about anything. And so every historical event that happens, they see it through the lens of World War II. Like, in this scenario, who is the evil mustache man, and who is the heroic United States saving the day? But enough about this rant about boomers. You've probably heard it all before. Let's think about what. Let's think about how do we solve this? Like, what is the solution to the boomer question?
We're just gonna kill them!
No, just kidding. For legal reasons, this is a joke. Realistically, one of the biggest issues is that not only are boomers, like old people, are a big cohort, and they are very politically active because if they're retired, they don't have much to do, so they actually go out and vote. I know, cringe, right? So breaking the political power of boomers is gonna be pretty difficult. But I think if you can galvanize pretty much the entire working age population, you can probably build a political coalition that could defeat the boomers. To be honest, in a democratic system, if it's gonna stay like that, what really needs to be done are like age limits on running for office and probably also age limits on voting. Like if you're basically riddled with dementia, you got no business voting, and also you got no business being, president of the United States, for example. And we really need to stop this wealth transfer scheme that takes money from working age people and transfers it to pensioners. Because I think this is, among many other things, one small reason for the low birth rates. So you basically create a system where the demographics are always going to be this cooked because the old are going to leech off of the young and basically prevent a new, strong young cohort from being born because young people are just crushed and they can't really afford to have families. I mean, a lot of countries have very unique pension systems, but a lot of them have this insanely high pensions. And I don't think we should necessarily like cut all pensions and have like old people starve. I don't want that, and I think most people don't want that. But just dramatically capping the highest pensions, like yeah, I think we should definitely like cap pensions. So where the highest pension is basically a relatively comfortable existence, but not enough money so you can go on endless cruises and endlessly travel around the world. And most importantly of all, get into as many arguments on the internet with boomers as possible, because that's how you affect real political change. So yeah, that's it. We live in a doomed world created by the boomers. And until next time, remember to, I don't know,